Hello, my name is Jeff Unay, and this Autodesk podcast is called Hand Modeling and Sculpting Using Maya and Mudbox Part 1. The first part of this series will go over the early stages of designing the hand and the arm by first defining its primary and secondary forms in Maya. And I won't go too much into the tertiary detailing until Part 2. And after Part 2, we'll move on to the retopologizing of the mesh for it to work best for animation purposes, when it's deforming. So just beginning, I've just started here from a polygon cube. I'll use mainly Maya's basic polygon tool set to get started, using the split polygon tool, extrude face tool. You'll also see me using the insert edge loop tool. Has a nice ability to slide along a row of edges and where you can place them, and yeah, it's quite a useful tool. So while blocking out the basic topology and the forms, I'll frequently poly smooth the mesh, to see its results, and then just delete the poly smooth node, and sometimes with history turn on, I'll occasionally create a poly smooth node on a mesh and then artisan sculpt on top of that mesh, and then I'll delete that poly smooth node, and so what you get is some of the deltas that you've sculpted have been preserved, some not, but it just gives you enough to be able to kind of freely go in and shape the model with the artisan tool. It's pretty intuitive. So when I began the model, originally the palm was facing downward. Here I've just rotated the hand back up, so it stands along the y-axis, so I can use some of my artisan sculpting hotkeys that are X, Y, and Z artist dependent, axis dependent. With the mesh facing forward at the plus Z. So my hotkeys set the artisan brush as reference vectors and push and pull to work in a way that allows me to quickly nudge something in the direction of up, down, left, right, or forward and backwards. So within these notes, I've included some of these hotkeys. Some of the guys that I work with, they find it useful. Um, these hotkeys, so I figured I'd share it here as well. Another modeling tool that I frequently use is a script called modsoft.mel. It was written for the Hyperreal modeling series. It's a soft fall-off modeling tool that utilizes the soft mod deformer. The workflow would be to first select a center point vertex and then shift select the fall-off point vertex and run the script. I'll include that into this podcast as a package as well. Maya 2008 now has a soft fall off in the move tool option, which is really nice. You can use that one if you like. I use both. In this case, I like that the soft mod is a deformer, so I can adjust the weighting of it and then move it around to quickly adjust the overall proportions. Nonetheless, I find them both useful in different scenarios. So now I'm just adding a little bit of definition to the arm. Not too much. All the stuff that I'm doing here, is subject to change. Just to add enough edges, enough geometry into the model, before bringing it into Mudbox. So with some of the edge loops that I'm adding in, if I add them in and I just need to even them out a little bit, I'll use the artisan brushes relaxed brush setting to even out the line distribution, which is kind of neat. It's a really nice addition to the artisan workflow. And also here I'm just adding a few more edge loops in between the fingers. Originally, when I had sculpted the fingers, I just extruded the four faces outward for each finger. So there wasn't anything separating the joining of those fingers. So now I'm just adding a few more edge loops in between for deformation purposes. So here is the model that we'll move forward on into Mudbox.